pleased this morning to be joined by the UFC's Benson Henderson. Benson, how are you?
I'm good, Tom. I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You're wonderful. Very glad to have some time to chat with you about your background in mixed martial arts, and then to talk about your background in business and to talk about the gym you have here in Glendale.
Yep.
Let's address this to someone who may not be familiar with your story. Tell us how you got started in mixed martial arts and the transition from one league to another.
Yeah. Oh, I'd have to start, of course, with wrestling. Wrestling is my first love. That's my base. I started wrestling when I was, in high school. Went to college. Was a couple time All-American in college. After that, after graduation, athletes still have a desire to compete, but there is no NFL, there's no NBA, there's no Major League Baseball for wrestlers. It's normally you're the top 1% of the 1% and go to the Olympics, or your wrestling career is over. But we still had such a strong desire to compete, to do something. It was right when the UFC was coming about and mixed martial arts was going more mainstream. A lot of former college wrestlers were going into mixed martial arts. I thought I'd give it a shot, try it out, and luckily I've been doing it ever since. I was pretty blessed in my situation, and took it from there.
Now you've got 2 belts as I walked in here, so you've been champ twice.
Yeah.
Now I've called you champ before. I didn't realize that you'd been champ twice. What do you accredit your success to?
I would have to credit a lot of my success, a large majority, to obviously my parents, my mom, instilling in me a lot of the stuff that the personality traits are who you're going to become later on in life, and then wrestling as well. Wrestling, I think, helps you so many facets of life. Like, people think about wrestlers and it's just on the wrestling mat, in the wrestling room, working out, but that's not it at all. It encompasses so much more. The mentality that wrestling gives you.
Have you figured out where you're going to put the 3rd belt?
I got a spot for the 3rd belt. For the next belt at 170, I know where I'm going to put it.
When did you know you were an entrepreneur?
Entrepreneur, actually, I wasn't positive. I always was kind of shy of business, but I knew that it's a good way to make your living, and you're going to work for somebody else or you work for yourself. But I'd say after my fighting career, or after I got started in my fighting career, I kind of realized, okay, well, this is where I can put it all together. This is my opening. Before fighting MMA, I never really knew where my opening in business would be. I didn't know where I would go towards. But with MMA, my career, it gave me certain openings, certain opportunities, and I ran with those.
What's your philosophy on partnering and hiring the right people?
Philosophy for hiring the right people and partner is make sure you're just smart about it. Hire and consult with as many people as you can. Getting extra opinions is never a bad thing, because if they're bad opinions, you can discard them. Maybe there's a gem, maybe there's a pearl of wisdom in there, and you're smart enough to listen and ask the right people. Maybe you ask a few wrong people. It doesn't hurt anything. It doesn't hurt to ask any bad questions, so to speak. So I asked a lot of opinions. I got a lot of info from people, and then from there, as far as who you partner with, and as far as your hiring process, you just gotta be smart. You gotta do your due diligence. You gotta do your research as to who you're gonna entrust to, with your money, with your business.
Yeah. What's your philosophy on getting the word out and marketing the brand of your business?
I would say the biggest thing I've learned is, no matter how much money you put, unless you're a giant corporation, no matter how much money you put into it, word of mouth is always the best. If you have millions of dollars to put into actual advertisement, that's one thing. But other than that, though, just the word of mouth is by far, and I think studies have shown, word of mouth is by far the number one way you can get your business out there.
Now, this is an interesting question to ask you, because there's a sports aspect to it and there's a business aspect to it, but a lot of people have concerns when they get involved with business because of the legal environment, and they don't want to get sued for this or for that. What's your strategy and philosophy when it comes to attorneys?
Philosophy as far as having attorneys is make sure you have a good one. If you have a good one, then the rest of it won't take care of itself. But your attorney should make you aware of some of the liabilities that might happen, and some of the the bad things, the bad side of business. He can make you aware of what could happen, and hopefully potentially make sure you stay away from that, stay out of that trap.
Now, this next question is going to be the most interesting. I asked this question of Jerry Colangelo when we interviewed him. We got a very interesting response. But of all the people that we've talked to, I mean, entrepreneurs are very competitive. You are a very competitive person. What's the role that competition has in your life for sports and for business? And do you have a philosophy on how to compete, how to stay relevant, and how to make sure that you've got that competitive edge?
That's a good one. That's a great question. I would say for me, I love competition. Hands down, I am all about competition. I think it brings out the best in us. Sometimes we tend to be lazy and not do this and not do that and just kind of float around through life. But competition, I think, can really drive people, can really inspire people to achieve great things. So I'm all about competition. Some people say I cross the line into too much. Okay, who's gonna eat the fastest? Who can eat the most? And so that's not good sometimes.
But you do get competitive about things like that.
I get competitive about everything. It's almost a bad trait. I'm right in the line of where it's a bad trait and the good trait. Funny story, competition. Speaking of that, Michael Jordan. There's a great story about Michael Jordan and him playing one-on-one with his basketball with his son. And he would win all the time because he's Michael Jordan. His son's younger than him, and his son. Finally, his son was old enough. I think it was like his sophomore or junior year in college. He actually beat his dad in a game of basketball. Michael said, "Oh, okay, yeah, cool. You won this one. You won this one." Immediately, he wanted the rematch. They played another game. Michael trounced him, beat him soundly, and said, "I'm never playing you again, son." He beat him. He made sure that he beat him, and he went out in the W and said, "I'm never going to play you again." That's competition. That's competition like I've never heard of before. That's insane. Your own son.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty nuts.
So how does that translate into business?
I think for myself, the competition-wise, making sure my gym is the best gym in the valley. People can argue, oh, one of the best gyms, yada yada, but making sure we have the best facilities, making sure we have the best fighters. Any of our guys, whether it's a jiu-jitsu tournament, whether it's a kickboxing match, whether it's a boxing match, whether it's a MMA fight, making sure all of our guys who train here out of the MMA lab are as fully prepared as they possibly can be, and they win at whatever competition they're doing. Business-wise, I want to make sure that we're offering the most to our students, to our members, and make sure that we give them the most and best opportunity to learn here and learn that. Making sure that they have a world-class Muay Thai instructor. We brought our Muay Thai instructor from Thailand. She's a short little 5'5" Thai lady, but she's pretty bad. She's a multiple-time stadium champion in Thailand. It's kind of like a world champion in Thailand. So she knows what she's doing. We brought her from Thailand to instruct Muay Thai here.
Let's pause for a moment. How did you convince her to come out?
She was actually looking for a little bit of a change. She had some personal life stuff, so she was looking for a little bit of change. We happened to get lucky and said, "Oh, hey, well, we have an opportunity here. Would you like to?" And then we flew her out. We paid for her to stay for like a month or so, see how she likes it. Arizona's a little bit different, so paid for her to see how she likes it, and luckily she did, and said, "I'll take the job," and it's been going great since.
And what's competition in the future going to look like for this gym? Are you driven by a vision? Are you pegging your competition to someone else, or are you chasing demons in your mind that kind of force you to keep asking, how do I get better? What's going on inside the mind of Benson Henderson?
I would say for the gym and our fight team are two separate entities, but pretty closely entwined. Our gym could not function without our fight team, and our fight team could not function without our gym. So for me, how I envision our business going is having a fight team where we have 6, 7, 8 UFC belts on our wall, and having our gym, having it be, as far as our Muay Thai members are going to be some of the best Muay Thai fighters in the state of Arizona, on the whole West Coast, in the whole country. Our jiu-jitsu competitors, I want our jiu-jitsu competitors to be some of the best jiu-jitsu competitors in the state of Arizona, on the whole West Coast, and the whole country. So that's the way I see it. Our boxing members, the same thing for them. We have members who just like working out, and they always jokingly tell me stories about how hard the workouts here, just regular strength and conditioning workouts to get in shape and have fun, that sort of stuff. But they'll go to their buddies' CrossFit gyms and like, oh, their buddies rave about CrossFit and we're so in shape, we can do this, we can do that, and then our members here who do strength and conditioning classes going over to the CrossFit gym and then doing very, very well at the CrossFit gym in all their times and all that stuff. So I want to just win at everything, basically.
I love that. You finished college.
I did.
Let's talk to someone right now who's considering being an entrepreneur that has not gone to school, doesn't have a desire to go to school. What's one college class that you think they need to take in order to prepare them for the challenges of owning a business?
One college course to take to prepare for owning a business. I'd probably say a small groups communication course. A small groups communication course, because we think we know how to talk to people. We think we know how we are coming across. We have a lot of ideas about, oh, I thought I said this the right way, and for some reason the small group you're talking to, they heard it another way, they took it another way. So as far as being conscious, being aware of how you come across in a small group, saying the right thing, saying it in the right way, making sure you have the right dynamics in a small group, because most businesses are going to be small groups, unless you're, again, in a huge multi-billion-dollar corporation. Most businesses, small businesses in Arizona, are small groups. So I would definitely say a small groups communication course and being aware of how you come across, how you're talking to your small group.
Do you have a favorite book?
Favorite book? I have a ton. I have a lot. I'll throw out, what was it, T.H. White, T.H. Eliot, The Once and Future King.
Yeah, T.H. White.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
My favorite line from that is when he turns him into a tadpole and says, "There's no compensation for experience," or something like that.
Amen to that.
Your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? My wife gives me a hard time about this all the time, but I gotta go with Princess Bride. It's a classic. It's an American classic.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Inconceivable.
Yeah, inconceivable.
And do you have a mantra? Do you have something
mantra?
do you have something that you live by?
For me, I would say my mantra in life, and I apply it to not just my career, not just me working out, not just wrestling, not just MMA, but again, in my business life, even in my personal life, everything, is I want to work harder than anybody else in the room. So in our practice room, we have 20 UFC fighters, a ton of young up-and-comers who will be big names in this sport. Every time I practice, every time I go in to work out, I want to make sure I'm the hardest worker in the room. I look around, I make sure I'm working harder than anybody else. So I take that and I try to apply it to everything else.
Did you have a mentor?
Mentor, I'd say I've been really blessed and really lucky. Most of my mentors, the guys I really looked up to, I was a parent of a single family like a lot of kids are nowadays. So I didn't really have a father figure in my life. So I'd say most of my wrestling coaches were my mentors / kind of father figures, and I don't know. Maybe at the time I didn't realize how much I looked up to them, but looking back, I'm 31 years old now. So looking back when I was 14, 15, I first started wrestling, I see how much I looked up to and emulated and admired my wrestling coach, Mike Bressler, and how much he impacted me still to this day, and the decisions I make now and the person I am now. Same thing for my college wrestling coach. Great man, great father. He has 5 kids, 6 kids. Steve Costanzo, and looking back now, I was in college. I was like, oh, I'm a grown man. I'm 19 years old. I'm 20 years old. I'm a grown man. But still, we don't realize how much I looked up to him, admired him, emulated him, and all the things he did. So I definitely have to say my wrestling coaches.
Now let's end on addressing a 14-year-old that could be watching this. That's the next Benson Henderson. What advice do you have for that kid?
I would just say to the 14-year-old kid out there, find what it is you love and then go and do that. As cliche as it is, I was lucky enough. I love wrestling. I love competition. You know, I love MMA. So it's easy. It's not easy for me, but it's easy for me to fully embrace it. If you do something you don't love, you're not going to be able to fully embrace it. If you don't fully embrace it, you won't be able to have wild success with it.
Yeah. I want to thank Benson Henderson for taking the time to be interviewed today. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
If you're interested in starting a business, go to the Arizona Corporation Commission website at azcc.gov. And best of luck in your entrepreneurial endeavors.